Hello, everyone, and welcome to another learning session for Eat to Be Nice and our online website called New Brain Nutrition. My name is Jonathan Marks from Eat to Be Nice and New Brain Nutrition, and we're talking today about the Predimed PLUS study. It's one of the 4 clinical trials that we're doing in the Eat to Be Nice project. So the Predimed PLUS study and how the Mediterranean diet is linked to mental health and well-being. We're joined today by Dr. Monica Bullo, PhD. She's in the Department of Biochemistry and Biotechnology at Rovira Virgili University in Barcelona, Spain. Hello, Monica.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine, you? Okay.
Sure, go ahead. Take it away, Monica.
Dementia is an umbrella term for several diseases affecting memory, other cognitive abilities and behavior that interfere significantly with a person's ability to maintain their activities of daily living. Dementia is a rapidly growing global public health problem worldwide. Around 50 million people have dementia, with approximately 60% living in low and middle income countries. Every year, there are nearly 10 million new cases of dementia. So the total number of people with dementia is projected to reach 82 million in 2030 and 152 million in 2050. Although age is the strongest known risk factor for cognitive decline, dementia is not a natural or inevitable consequence of aging, and adopting a healthy lifestyle will help to reduce the risk of dementia.
So, Monica, this number is tripling between now and 2050, going from 50 million to 150 million. Do we know why that's going up so quickly?
Well, the reason could be due to the aging of the population, so the increasing in age, and also because there are other morbidities that are associated with dementia. For example, obesity and type 2 diabetes are also increasing and is expected to increase in the future years. So this could be some of the reasons for such a double rate of dementia in the next years.
Right. So it's obesity, diabetes. I mean, all those are increasing at great rates. So dementia is coming along with it. Thank you.
So recent studies have shown a relationship between the development of cognitive impairment and dementia with lifestyle-related risk factors, such as physical inactivity, tobacco use, unhealthy diets, and harmful use of alcohol. Certain medical conditions are also associated with an increased risk of developing dementia, including hypertension, including type 2 diabetes, hypercholesterolemia, obesity, and depression. Moreover, other potentially modifiable risk factors, such as social isolation and cognitive inactivity, are considered. The existence of potentially modifiable risk factors means that prevention of dementia is possible through a public health approach, including the implementation of key interventions that delay or slow cognitive decline or dementia. In fact, in May 2017, the 70th World Health Assembly endorsed the Global Action Plan on the Public Health Response to Dementia 2017-2025. This action plan includes the recommendation of a Mediterranean-like diet to adults with normal cognition and mild cognitive impairment to reduce the risk of cognitive decline and dementia development. Mediterranean diet is a plant-based dietary pattern common to the olive-growing areas of the Mediterranean region. It's high in unprocessed plant foods, such as grains, vegetables, fruits, legumes, nuts and seeds, and extra virgin olive oil. It's also moderate in fish and shellfish, moderate in red wine, and low in meat, dairy, eggs, animal fats, and other processed foods. There are now more than 13 systematic reviews or meta-analyses of epidemiological studies suggesting a relation between the Mediterranean diet and cognitive function, although results are inconsistent. These reviews and meta-analyses have included different populations with a wide, broad age range. But the strongest evidence suggests for a beneficial effect of the Mediterranean diet on older adults' global cognition. However, the only systematic review conducted till now on randomized clinical trials that was conducted over 5 studies, including 1,888 participants, has shown mostly non-significant effects neither in attention nor in working memory. but a significantly favoring effect of the Mediterranean diet for cognitive performance with a small effect size. But it's important to highlight that this meta-analysis was conducted only over 5 studies with limited sample size and mostly with a short intervention period. So, we believe that additional clinical trials are needed in order to elucidate not only the effectiveness of a dietary intervention, but also the mechanisms linking lifestyle and mental health.
I'd like to just pop in here with a comment, which is, folks, you are seeing the development of science and research right here live on this webinar. What you're hearing Monica say is that there have been other studies done on the Mediterranean diet. Those studies have been analyzed, but they've shown moderate to small effects of the Mediterranean diet. And now Monica is going to tell you about the next phase of studies that are going to be done by the Eat to Be Nice project, so that we hope to get even more data about the effect of the Mediterranean diet on mental health. So this is quite a significant event that's happening in science, and it's really part of the reason that we're doing the Eat to Be Nice study, is to advance the science and knowledge of how diet affects mental health.
Till now, different mechanisms are postulated as mediators of these potential benefits of diet or Mediterranean diet on cognitive impairment and dementia. Obesity, genetics, epigenetics, oxidative stress, and gut microbiota appears as the most relevant candidates. And gut microbiota is one that has acquired a growing interest in the last years. So we will focus today on obesity and gut microbiota. Regarding obesity, it has been linked to cognitive impairment through its effect on inflammation and insulin resistance. We know that insulin resistance impairs the blood-brain barrier in humans and animal models, but exactly how, it's not well known yet. The free fatty acids that are higher during the inflammatory state pass through the malfunctioning blood-brain barrier. This could potentially cause neuroinflammation and potentially contribute to cognitive impairment.
Monica, can you explain briefly what the blood-brain barrier is?
The blood-brain barrier is a barrier, is a membrane isolating our brain from the rest of the body. So it's almost a perfect membrane, a perfect barrier in order to decide the molecules that are crossing to the brain or not. So brain is one of the most important organs in our body. It's brain and heart probably are both the most important ones. And it's really necessary to carefully regulate the molecules, the substance that can cross this barrier in order to affect brain. So affecting this brain barrier can produce some disturbance in the brain. And this disturbance could explain, at least partially, some of the dementia and cognition affectations that these patients have.
Got it. So does inflammation in the body, does that also cause inflammation in the brain, which can affect cognitive impairment?
Inflammatory markers arrive to the brain barrier and modifies the permeability. So modifying this permeability provokes that some molecules can cross the barrier and go to the brain, and then the risk of damage increase substantially.
I see. Thank you for explaining that.
In case of gut microbiota, many studies in animal models, as well as observational studies in humans, have been conducted. However, as most of the studies are in postmortem samples or are observational, it's difficult to determine the causal effect. Evidence indicates that brain microbiome signaling primarily occurs via vagus nerve. This communication is mediated by several microbial-derived molecules, such as short-chain fatty acids, secondary bile acids, or tryptophan metabolites. So this biosis, that is an imbalance of the gut microbiome, is well related to autism, spectrum disorder, and also to Alzheimer's disease. Focusing on gut microbiota, we currently know that the human gastrointestinal tract is populated by a tremendous amount of microorganisms, ranging from bacteria, archaea, to virus and fungi. And there's actually no doubt that changes in this microbiome could have implications on human health. Each human's gut microbiota is shaped in early life, and their composition depends on type of delivery, methods of milk feeding, weaning periods, etc. The native microbiota remains quite stable in adulthood, but can be modified by several factors. Diet, disease, physical activity, psychosocial factors, smoking, circadian rhythms, and other pollutants are some of the key factors. With this regards, Eat to be Nice Consortium is interested in diet and lifestyle.
So we're studying, and you'll hear more about both what you eat and the kind of exercise you get. We'll be having presentations on all of these.
One of the most
Go ahead.
well-recognized healthy dietary patterns worldwide is the Mediterranean diet. And although this field of research is still scarce, Mediterranean diet seems to be related to a better microbiome profile, as derived from few observational and clinical trials. Several foods of the Mediterranean diet, such as whole grains and legumes, increase bifidobacteria and Prevotella, which are butyrate producers and could influence the mental health. In fact, high fiber intake is positively associated with cognition in several studies.
Interesting.
Also, nuts and red wine, both characteristic components of the Mediterranean diet, increase butyrate producer bacteria and decrease the amount of deleterious bacteria such as E. coli or Enterobacter. Within modifiable lifestyle factors, the regular practice of physical activity also exerts some benefits on cognitive decline. Although mechanisms underlying this relationship are not well known yet, the modulation of inflammation and insulin resistance are potential candidates. Moreover, since physical activity seems to shift gut microbiota towards a healthy profile, this could be another potential mechanism explaining the link between exercise and mental health. However, till now, there are no studies designed to evaluate whether lifestyle intervention could improve mental health through the modulation of gut microbiota. Eat to be Nice and Predimed PLUS play a key role in answering this important question. Predimed PLUS is an ongoing multi-center randomized primary prevention trial of cardiovascular disease prevention conducted in community-dwelling men and women aged from 60 to 75 years old, with a body mass index ranging between 27 to 40, and with metabolic syndrome. The detailed protocol of the trial was published in the International Journal of Epidemiology in 2018.
So this is being done on 60 to 75-year-olds.
Yes,
with
obesity,
metabolic
overweight,
syndrome, you're
obesity,
saying.
and also with metabolic syndrome. This was inclusion criteria.
Okay, and you chose this age range, I'm assuming, because there's more likelihood of dementia.
And we also choose this range of age because the main aim of the Predimed PLUS study is cardiovascular disease and cardiovascular mortality. So we need middle-aged and elderly subjects in order to have time enough to develop cardiovascular disease and, unfortunately, mortality.
Okay.
Subjects that were allocated in the intensive lifestyle intervention group follow an hypocaloric Mediterranean diet with a reduction of 30% of energy restriction, supplemented with extra virgin olive oil and nuts. They also undergo an intensive lifestyle program with physical activity that comprise walking at least 45 minutes per day or equivalent and receive behavioral support. They have several individual and group sessions along the intervention and along the time. On the other hand, subjects allocated in the control group are following an intervention similar to that carried out in the Predimed Study 1. They were following a Mediterranean diet supplemented with extra virgin olive oil and nuts, but without any calorie restriction, physical activity program, or weight loss goals. Last year, we published in the Diabetes Care the results of the pilot study that was conducted on the first 626 participants that were randomized into the trial. We analyzed changes in anthropometric and biochemical variables after 6 and 12 months of the intervention. A significant greater reduction in body weight was found in the intervention group compared to the controls. And also here, we can see that a significant improvement in several variables related to glucose metabolism and lipid profile were greater after the intensive lifestyle intervention represented in blue.
So these are 6 and 12-month studies. That sounds quite a bit longer than the other studies that you referred
Yes,
to
it's
earlier.
a quite longer long term, but anyway, these results are quite similar to those that we observed in the Predimed 1. The difference is that in the Predimed 1, there was no weight reduction, and in this case, we have a greater reduction in case of the intervention group. So for a reduction in weight loss, it's really original and new, but this improvement in biochemical parameters was really expected.
Wonderful.
Our group of research was also interested in to analyze how the presence of type 2 diabetes was associated with cognitive decline in older individuals with overweight, obesity, and metabolic syndrome. In the study that we published in 2018, we demonstrated that participants with type 2 diabetes display a worse cognitive performance when compared to those without type 2 diabetes. In fact, in a predictive model, both type 2 diabetes and body mass index were predictive factors of worse cognitive functioning. Moreover, type 2 diabetic participants with a better control of type 2 diabetes displayed better cognitive performance when compared to those with a worse type 2 diabetes control assessed by glycated hemoglobin levels. This demonstrates that not only the presence or absence of type 2 diabetes, but also its metabolic control is associated to cognition. Knowing the fact that gut microbiota has influences on metabolism, we were interested in knowing how gut microbiota display a link between lifestyle intervention in the Predimed study and mental health. This is why, in the framework of this study, we have designed a sub-study or a sub-analysis to answer this important question. In this sub-study, we have included a total of 789 subjects that were randomized either to the intervention group or to the control group, and we collect stool samples at baseline after 1 year of follow-up, and we are also collecting fecal samples after 3 years of follow-up, and the idea is to follow collecting the samples till the end of the 5 years of follow-up.
Wow. So this is the study that we're in the process of doing now. It's 5 years of
Now we are
follow-up. That's quite
analyzing,
long.
in fact, the samples after 1 year of follow-up. But yeah, the idea for sure is to follow till longer follow-up time.
Right. And just to make sure I understand, on the right in green, we see the control group. So they're only on the Mediterranean diet, and the intervention group is the Mediterranean diet plus exercise.
So control group is a Mediterranean diet, but without goals of weight loss and without promotion of physical activity. We are not telling them that they cannot do physical activity. Of course, we cannot say that, but we do not promote physical activity in these participants. But I have to say that being randomized to this group, it's not deleterious in terms of health, since we saw in the Predimed 1 study that this type of intervention was also healthy in terms of cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. So now what we want to do with the Predimed study is to go forward and to see how losing weight and maintaining this weight can help, can contribute to decrease the risk of cardiovascular disease, mortality, and also in this case of dementia.
Wonderful.
In these subjects, we have collected a large range of questionnaires assessing different dimensions of mental health. We have included specific questionnaires for cognitive impairment, questionnaires assessing memory processes, attention or executive functions, and also self-reported questionnaires on impulsivity. In these participants, as we have collected stool samples, we are currently sequencing the gut microbiota to evaluate if the intervention is able to modify the gut microbiota and how this expected change in gut microbiota are related or not to cognition. This analytical process comprised a first step to extract DNA and to check for quantity and quality. In a second step, we amplify the 16S gene that is specific of bacteria, and we also create the libraries. After that, we sequence the gene, and results are compared to the libraries in order to identify different family, phylums, genera, or species.
So we have, if you're interested in this whole effective microbiome on mental health, we have some other learning sessions that we're presenting to you that will go more directly into how the microbiome affects mental health. So we'll cover that there.
So, as future perspective, we will evaluate the effect of the lifestyle intervention conducted in the Predimed PLUS trial on changes in gut bacteria, and also we will assess whether these changes in gut bacteria are related to improved cognition in different dimensions. In conclusion,
Fine.
more large-scale clinical trials investigating the complex interactions between genes, microbiota, diet, and aging, such as the Eat to Be Nice and the Predimed PLUS, are necessary. If these studies could include also the role of other parts of the human microbiome, such as microbiome and virome, would allow us to target on better preventative and treatment strategies.
What is the
microbiome? Is fungi.
I'm sorry. Oh, fungi. Okay.
And there are also some virus in stool samples. This is why we suggest to analyze not only microbiome that comprise bacteria, but also microbiome that comprise fungi, and also the virome that comprise virus.
Wonderful. So we've been talking with Dr. Monica Bullo, PhD from the Department of Biochemistry and Biotechnology at Rovira i Virgili University in Barcelona. She's been talking about the Predimed PLUS study, and we're about a year into this study, and it's going to be a 5-year-long follow-up. So this is really kind of a new long study that's never been done before. Monica, this is wonderful work. And we will come back to you for updates every once in a while to see how we're coming along and keep you all informed as well. Monica, thank you so much for joining us today. I learned a lot. I hope everybody else did, and kind of give us an update on what we're doing here at Eat to Be Nice. And we're really taking science forward. And that's the big message that we get out of today's presentation, is that we've looked at what's been done so far. We're moving it ahead so we can learn more. Monica, thanks so much. You did a great presentation. It's nice to see you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.